first of all, how is it different applying for a postdoc versus applying for a PhD? Is there a difference there? And then how is it different being a postdoc versus being a PhD student?
Well, I can only speak from my experience. I applied to one postdoc position and I got it. And
100% rate. Okay.
yeah, but like compared to my PhD, like I had to apply to 200, different places to get somewhere. Here I just applied to this one. And to be honest, it was the most straightforward process. They just required a CV and a letter of motivation, and that was it. And I got it. I had an interview, and I think I got a call right next day. So
Okay.
it was really nice. Like
Awesome.
no stress.
Yeah, I guess if somebody recognizes how motivated you are to get to the position, it makes things a little bit easier. Okay, so then how is it? We'll go back to what are you doing in your postdoc and how are you doing? But just tell me from the point of doing science, you're now in a different place in the hierarchy of the lab, because when you're starting as a PhD student, you're kind of just, you're all over the place. You don't know what you're doing. Now you kind of know a little bit of what you're doing and how to be independent and all of that. So maybe tell me, how is the experience of being a postdoc versus a PhD student?
Yeah, well, I can only, of course, speak from my experience, and it is very common to go from a PhD to a postdoc in a different subject, which I did not do. So I had to learn everything basically. It's a new topic. I mean, I had knowledge, of course I did have knowledge, but I didn't have like molecular knowledge, or I did not know certain pathways, because at that moment when I was going through all of this, I didn't care about the molecular pathways. I just needed to know what I need to do to get better. So I had to relearn a lot of things, and then the techniques that are used in the current laboratory are mostly the same as in my PhD, but there were some that were new. So I had to learn. And there were students, PhD students, that started at the same time as me in this lab. And we had to go through the training together. So it was me and PhD students at the same like trainings. And I'm sometimes blown away by how good these PhD students are. Sometimes I'm like, oh my God, do I like deserve to be a postdoc? Because they're so good. But you see, like it doesn't stop. It doesn't stop. Now you're a postdoc and you're like, oh yeah, I'm the best. No, I always feel like, okay, I feel this imposter syndrome, but I think it's normal. I learned to live with it, and I just, get over it. But in general, the postdoc and PhD differences are that postdocs are, they're more like generating ideas, managing projects. So in PhD, mostly, I'm saying mostly, you get your ideas from your PI, kind of. You also discuss it. You're still learning things. They give you more direction and so on. Well, in postdoc, I would say that you generate more ideas, and if you have a certain direction, you kind of just have to persuade your PI that why would it be feasible to go into that direction, and you just follow it. And I don't know, in my case, I kind of I work with PhDs and, assist in multiple different projects. I'm not focused on my projects, and you get to chair conferences, present in seminars, and so on. I mean, there is a hierarchy. You can definitely see it. But as I said, because I started anew, I'm still like, yeah, I still feel like a PhD sometimes, but I'm not. Yeah. So
Do
yeah,
you feel that
that's
when you discuss, let's say, with your PI, do you feel that your ideas are more valued than if you were a PhD student? Like, that's a good idea. Maybe you should pursue that. Versus a PhD student, do you feel just this discussion being more on a level playing field with the PI? Because when you're a PhD student, you kind of, even if you suggest something, it's like, I tend to notice that it's much more easily shut down. Maybe as a postdoc, you get a little bit more freedom and liberty to do.
In my lab, the case is you have an idea, and the PI says, "Okay, can you tell me why?" And then, if you're able to give a background on why and why do you think this is. And if you answer to the questions of the PI, you're fine. It doesn't matter if you're a PhD or a postdoc. But that's the thing. While postdoc has more experience, you have a little bit more background. You know how things are going, and with the PhD, you indeed, I don't think you think the same way. PhDs also can have a great idea. I'm like 100% sure, but maybe they don't do this thorough research and they do not have the exact background. Okay, maybe they know that they want to do this, but how and why? And is it possible?
It's a little bit more hopeful, wishful thinking. This would be cool versus this is actually something we can do in 2 years. Yeah, I think that's
Exactly.
a. Mhm.
Which doesn't mean that the idea is not good. Far from that. You can build upon it. Like if you bring it up in the meeting, maybe postdoc says something, then PI says something, then this and that, and you have a great idea. So I think the ideas as ideas are valued equally. It's just, ideas are also like a part of idea is how will you execute it? If it's possible, if it's feasible, money wise, time wise, your objective wise. So I think you have to take all that into account. And I think postdocs do that more and are more ready, while PhDs might not be. Yeah,
Mhm.
so that could be a difference.